So it's my last day in the city of Vancouver. I'm going to be going to visit cousin Eileen Tuulos. She lives in Burnaby and she just got through hip surgery. And so she's not mobile right now, but I'm going to go pay her a visit. Now, Eileen is someone just as special as my cousin Bob, as I stayed with her in her home in Burnaby when I finished college 20 some odd years ago. And she's also big into the whole family genealogy on the Pouttu side of the family. And the interesting thing about Eileen is she's just a couple years younger than my mother, and she grew up in Sointula. And she grew up on the Pouttu farm in Rough Bay on Malcolm Island. So I'll be talking about family history, and yeah, it should be a good visit. So let's go visit my cousin Eileen Tuulos. She lives in Burnaby, so I'm gonna be taking the bus there. Let's go see Eileen. Just gotta wait here on East Hastings for a number 14 or a number 16 bus, and that's gonna take me to another bus stop that I have to transfer onto to take me to Burnaby. Sometimes you have to wait quite a while for a bus. I've been here about 20 minutes already, and there's still none in sight, so I'll just keep waiting. And here's my bus. I'm just about approaching my cousin Eileen Tuulos' house on Parker Street, and I have to wear a mask because Eileen's husband unfortunately is in the hospital right now, so gotta mask up. But here we go. Let's go visit my cousin Eileen. So one thing you're going to notice when you watch my interviews with my elder cousins on the Pouttu side of the family is that I got a bit of a facial tic. That's something I've had to live with most of my life, and you probably haven't noticed that in previous videos as you only get to see little clips of my face. And it's quite common. I control it with magnesium. It used to be much worse in the past. So don't let it bother you. It doesn't bother me, but I mean, if you feel like making a mockery of it, feel free. It's not gonna bother me none. It's just part of my life. And yeah, let's watch some videos. Let's do these interviews. Okay.
All right.
I'm Roger here, and this is my cousin Eileen Tuulos. And Eileen's grew up in Sointula on the Pouttu farm in Rough Bay. And yeah, I whenever I come to Vancouver, I like to spend some time with Eileen and my cousin Bob Pouttu. And an interesting thing about Eileen is when I was going to college in Vancouver about 25 years ago now, has it been that long? Yeah, I lived in Eileen's basement, and they were gracious enough to host me for a couple months when I was finishing my college. Yeah, so we're just going to chit-chat and talk a little bit about life in Sointula and what it was like living on the Pouttu farm.
1946, New Year's Day is when we arrived. Mom, Dad, my older brother Robert, and myself. And the Pouttu farm was abandoned, or no one had been living in it for several years. So we moved in and got the place humming again, and crops to grow and animals to feed, and we had a good life there.
Yeah. So Pouttu farm was built by Herman and Olga Pouttu,
Yes.
my great-grandparents, Eileen's grandparents. And so Eileen is... Herman and Olga Pouttu were my great-grandparents, and they had eight kids in total, the oldest of which was my grandfather, Mikko Pouttu, or Mike Poulton, later named Michael Poulton, and that would be my mother's father. And my mother's father, my grandfather, Mikko Pouttu, and Eileen's mother, Martha Pouttu, were sister and brother. And they grew up together in the Pouttu farm.
Yes, and
And what was that like?
that was a busy life. I mean, with all those children and all the clothes to wash and the chickens to feed and none of the modern conveniences. The outhouse was up by the barn.
Yeah.
No showers or toilets inside the house. A little potty somewhere, and Dad learned to gill net fish. He came from the prairies when his family immigrated from southern Finland, and he grew up around Edmonton area until he was on his own and ended up in British Columbia. And my parents, in the early, when they were first married, had a little cottage up on Burnaby Mountain. Dad was raising mink until the war came and the price of furs just fell so much that they sold it all off, and the person who bought the property couldn't even pay $500 for the taxes, so that property went back to the city, and we moved to the Queen Charlotte so Dad could be logging the Sitka spruce for the war effort with the planes that needed that light, strong wood. And after that, we went to Whitehorse for about a year and a half, and then took the steamship to Sointula, and there we stayed till 1958. And it was a perfect place to grow up and have fun, and have breakfast, off, play.
Yeah.
Talk to the old people, talk to the young people. Every day was a new adventure. So.
And Eileen's just a couple years younger than my mother, Nancy.
Yes.
Yeah.
My brother is the same age as
Right.
your
So just
mom.
is he 2 days older or younger?
He's 2 days older.
2 days older.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Pouttu farm, the farmhouse still exists, and it was built by Herman and Olga off of the timber that they fell on the property itself, which would have been quite a process. And then of course there was just the 2 floors. Back then it was just one floor.
Just
and they
one floor,
lived on
and
the
all
bottom.
those children lived
Yeah.
somewhere in that one floor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then all those kids would have went to school at the first schoolhouse in Sointula, which would have been later on Herman and Olga's retirement home.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Otto moved to Sunbury, and Alex stayed there.
So there was Mikko Pouttu, my grandfather, later Michael Poulton.
Yeah.
And he was the first baby boy born in Sointula.
Yeah.
And then Herman and Olga first moved to Sointula during the time of the Calvin Cancer.
Yeah.
And Mikko was born in Sointula as the first boy born to the Finns in Sointula. And then after the fall of the Calvin Cancer, Herman and Olga and Mikko moved to where in Washington?
Aberdeen,
Washington, and that is where Otto was born.
Yes.
Yeah, so the second baby was Otto, and then after that were the twins, right? Alec and Axel?
Otto, yes.
Alex.
And Axel, they were born in 1907.
In Sointula.
In Sointula, and then Lily in 1909. My mother, Martha, in 1910. And then Eric in 1913, and Edward in 1920.
So going back to Otto, so Otto was born in Aberdeen, Washington, and Herman and Olga were fishing in Aberdeen, Washington.
Yes, apparently either the fishing was so poor, or that was times when there was a little bit of upheaval or reorganization of the Finns that were in there around 1905, and I think they had to big fire there.
Yeah, that was the fall of the common cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, and with those children, really only Mike was there, and
From the beginning.
I understand that they had sort of like communal places that they lived, and the one woman would be the baker, and one would be the cook, and one would mind the children, and everybody shared in the jobs, the work that they did, and they would get paid for their daily work, just like the men got paid for the chores they did for the community.
Between men and women in Sointula, yeah. So then, Herman and Olga moved back to Sointula around what time was that? 1906.
Well, let's see. Otto was born in 1905. Yes, so I think it was 1906.
Yeah. So then that's when the lands after the fall of the common cancer were returned to the crown, and then the people that remained in Sointula bought the lands off the crown, and then this is when Pouttu in Sointula became, and Herman and Olga built the Pouttu farm out in Rough Bay.
And that was 40 acres, and they had a horse.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. There were no tractors or modern machinery. And so, Otto and Alec and your Mike, they all had to help Grandpa clear the farm. And then Grandpa had been putting in acreage of potatoes, and then in the off season, when he wasn't rowing out to Rivers Inlet to fish, he would go to the logging camps around the northern end of Vancouver Island and sell the potatoes to the logging camps, because you didn't have the convenience of Save On or whatever.
Amazing.
And
of course, let's go backwards in time. So Herman and Olga, my great grandparents, were born in Finland.
Right.
And Herman was born in Ullestaro, and Olga was born in Kemi, Finland,
which is far north.
Far north in Finland, and they didn't meet until Herman moved to. So Herman first came to North America, Minnesota, around 1902.
Somewhere in that area.
Well,
so maybe even early. No, it was in the 1896 or something like that, because he joined the military and served in the Spanish-American War in the Philippines, and he felt that was a good way to learn the language and get established in the country. And when he was let go from the services of the Spanish-American War, then he had brothers working in the mines in Colorado.
Pouttu,
which is Onni's father, and some of his other brothers. And Herman was quite a young, healthy Finnish man, and he saw what working in those mines where they didn't have the health benefits or knowledge of what all that dust was doing to them. And he says, no, I'm not going to be a miner for the rest of my life. So that's when I guess he had heard about this new settlement that they were trying to establish in Sointula and Malcolm Island. And so Olga would have been pregnant with Mike when they arrived in some little rowboat or whatever from the area around Nanaimo, and they just settled in and helped the community grow.
Now Olga's family, they were part of the first cooperative in Minnesota.
Yes. In Virginia, Minnesota.
Yeah. And she had several siblings.
Yes, one of them was a policeman, and they didn't have the brothers didn't have children, but two of her sisters had siblings that
And
some of them.
all of them were born in Minnesota.
Yes.
Besides Olga,
Yeah,
she was
'cause
the oldest.
I think Olga was only 2 or something when she came to the States with her family.
And then that's where Herman and Olga met,
Yeah.
and then our story begins.
Yes, and then when Herman and Olga married in February of 1902, Tilda Pouttu's mother had a boarding house in Colorado. Colorado, and so she helped there a bit, and then when they heard about Sointula, they packed up their goodies, what little they had, and
Matti Pouttu came later. Once Herman and Olga were already settled in Sointula, Matti and I think they came in around 1912 or something.
Yes, and Matti was quite ill with that silicosis, so he ended up in wherever the hospital was, Bella Coola.
And he had one son named Tigo that died in the States.
Right.
And then one daughter named Inga.
And she ended up with TB and moved to Kamloops to Tronquil and never came back to Sointula.
And then that would have been Oni's sister.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Oni Pouttu lived in Matti and Tilda's house in Sointula later on.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Matti Pouttu and Tilda Pouttu, they were actually cousins, because back then, if you were landowners in Finland, you wanted to marry into a family that still had land. You wanted to keep it in the family, so they were cousins that married each other.
And often they would have different surnames because it depended on which farmhouse you were born in. Mm-hmm. So Herman's older brothers' last names were Hertua, and Herman's family moved to a different farm. That was the Pouttu, and so he has the name Pouttu. Yeah. So it's a little confusing when we do our little genealogy, but we can go back to 1761 or something like that. There's lots of good information on.
So going back to the Pouttu kids, some interesting information. Eric Pouttu, he was one of the younger ones, and he went back to Finland. Why did he go back to Finland?
Well, Phil Hilton and some of the boys that were his age, they had heard about Russia that was offering this land, and they wanted some young whippersnapper men to come and build the country. Well,
slave labor.
They did not take care of them. Eric was sent somewhere beyond Moscow somewhere, and when Grandpa had not heard from him for quite a while, he went to Finland in 1939 and tried to find out where Eric was, and
so Herman went back to Finland in 1939 to try and find his son, and never found him. But then years later, we found out that he had a wife, and her name was Lempi, and she was trying to get in touch with Olga Pouttu, and wrote to Olga Pouttu, and Olga was long since dead, and at the time my mother was the closest relative in town, and the postmistress at the time gave the letter to my mom and had my grandfather translate the letter, but no one in the family wanted to get in touch with this lady because they were afraid she might be wanting money or something like that.
And sometimes there was that impression of the Russian people that, oh, those people who live in America, they're rich. They live in mansions, and they're
But
just
of course,
fine.
it was the opposite of that. Once we came to Canada, we were the slaves.
And when you have families of 8 kids or whatever, there isn't a lot of extra money. You were growing your own food. You were working hard labor to bring in money to support your family. So Yeah.
So then Herman came back to Canada, and the kids all grew up, and he decided to buy the old schoolhouse in Rough Bay, and that became the retirement home. And that house is still in the family. That's my brother and my mother's house, and you stayed there, of course, last time you visited us in Sointula. Yeah,
and I remember when Grandma had a stroke, and so she was in the bedroom, and Lily came to take care of her for a couple of years in the 1953 year in that. And her husband Ed was a troller, so he would go off to the west coast to do the trolling and fishing, and then come back to Sointula when in the off season. So
and so Lily that looked after Olga in her old age.
Yes, I forget exactly what year it was that Olga passed away, but I think it was 1954 or close to that.
Yeah, and of course they had their 50th anniversary, which is a big event.
Yes.
And the town of Sointula bought Herman and Olga a couch. Yeah.
And it was probably still there.
Yeah, it was. It was actually, my mother gave it to my uncle, but he didn't take care of it, so unfortunately.
Yeah. And then once Grandma passed away, Herman decided to come to the city because Lily and Ed had a house up on Capitol Hill, and the Swedish Canadian group had built a seniors residence right at where the Second Narrows Bridge is today.
Mm-hmm.
So Grandpa went to live there for a while, and then they built another one close to Burnaby Mountain, Burnaby Golf Course. So he went and lived there for a while until he passed away.
So how did Edward, one of the children of Herman and Olga, lived in the old Pouttu farmhouse, but Edward and his wife Signe, Edward died in a logging accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Port McNeil area.
Yeah, and then the Barbara and Dennis, which were their children, went up for adoption. Unfortunately, back then they weren't able to. The family wasn't able to adopt them. And,
no, in those days the social departments didn't see value in keeping families together. So Signe had come to the city with these two children. She really didn't have any kind of a work experience, and that was a shock to her when she's young and 21, 23, something like that, and these two young children. So they were put into foster care, and of course the foster care people didn't really want any connection to the real family because they were making money off of raising the kids. But we were lucky that Barbara and Dennis over time found that we were living in the city, and we did meet up and had some good visits with them. And unfortunately both Dennis and Barbara died around 50 with different kinds of cancers.
Yeah, and of course there was only a handful of the Pouttus that had children. It was Miko's line, which I'm from, and then Martha's line, which is where you're from.
And
Edward, and that was it out of all
life
kids.
was pretty tough.
Well, no, Eric supposedly had one kid, and in that letter from his wife Lempe, and but it died at a young age.
I'm sure that the health care was not that great, and winters could be quite severe, and if you didn't have money for I don't know what that accommodation the she would have, because Eric wasn't there to support, and she didn't necessarily know where. They just took him and moved him out into the country,
into a slave labor camp, and then that was the end of it.
It was sad because those boys from Sointula were all gung ho to go and see the world and make a difference, and and it was such a delusion for them.
Mm-hmm.
And some did come, Phil Hilton, and I can't remember, was it Apollo? There was a number of them about the same age that came back to Sointula. And said, no, it was not what they were saying they would do.
Yeah. And of course, when Herman went there to find Edward, he had to travel by train and across the country to New York, and then he had to take a steamship across the ocean. And then when he got to Finland, then that's when the war broke out. So then the family in Finland told him, you need to get back over here. And then everyone, there's no way except for writing letters to communicate. So everyone in the family in Sointula back then was worried about Herman, and then here Herman comes walking up the road.
They're thinking they're seeing a ghost. That looks like Herman, but he's in Finland. And
here he is.
And he had come all the way across the United States or whatever ways to make it home.
So then when after Edward died in the logging accident, then the Pouttu farmhouse stayed vacant for a few years.
2 years.
2 years, and then your mother Martha and Ralph Nemlander moved into, and then Eileen and Robert grew up in Pouttu.
It was good, and I'm happy because a lot of my cousins on the Pouttu side of the family never did know a lot of the mom's siblings, and I met most of them, other than if they passed away before I was born. So I knew uncles and aunts, and I could
that's right.
write down.
Edward died in 42, wasn't it? Yeah, just before Mom was born. Yeah,
and so I was able to document for the rest of my younger generation of who our family was and what they did. And
Eileen's done great, wonderful work.
And amazing that, well, your grandfather Mike had a camera, and he was one of the first people that would take pictures and develop the film and everything.
And he had a black dark room.
And so there was no shortage for a poor family to have photographs of the children growing up and the farm, and it's good to have that. Many people didn't have that, and certainly didn't have cell phones and cameras at the beck and call of visitors. So yes, we had lots of good pictures of. And
then when you were a teenager, you moved to the city here in Burnaby.
1958, so I was 14, and holy moly, the classes were as big as the whole Sointula school. Like I went to Kensington for the last year of my junior high. Well, there were thousands when I graduated from Burnaby North.
Yeah, wow.
You know, holy moly, that brain sort of was
and now,
in shock.
In the modern age, now it's even bigger, so you can only imagine just how big these schools are.
Oh, and there's bells ringing, and you finish English, and you had to go down the hall or up the stairs to this room and that room.
Yeah.
I thought, will I survive? But no, I met good friends, and I'm still friends with them today.
And then in your life, you became a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 1 year, my first year teaching, I was up in Trail, and then I was with one of my high school friends, and she loved the city, so we came back to the city. She got a job in Burnaby, I got a job in Coquitlam, and there I was for 35 years.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I enjoyed that very much. So.
And of course, Eileen also has the Schnauzers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And when I retired in 2000, what did I do? I got a little Schnauzer that was full of beans and says, no, I don't just lie around. I need a job to do. So I trained them, and we traveled as far as St. Louis, Missouri, to a big Schnauzer event with 119 Schnauzers doing agility and barn hunt and obedience and all those things. And then I learned how to train my dog to find odors. And so then we were going down to the States and parts of Canada, trialing with 3 schnauzers in nose work, and then we did the barn hunt down in Linden, Washington. So that filled my retirement days when I said, what am I going to do when I retire?
Yeah.
No, we had good fun. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, we've been talking for quite a while here, and we covered quite a bit. I'm going to show a few photos, but I'll cut this off, and we'll carry on. Anyways, thank you so much, Eileen.
Thank you, Roger, and I really appreciate that you of the younger generation have such keen interest in documenting the history of Malcolm Island and Sointula. Life is so busy nowadays that many of our younger family members don't have time to think about what happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. But I'm sure they will appreciate what you have done and what I have presented for them, so that...
Oh, and Eileen's done a lot of work. Yeah.
And I went to Finland 3 times to family gatherings. So
and part of the family reunions and everything together.
Yeah. So
yes,
we maintain our a little bit of our traditions. And now that I live in Burnaby, there's the Scandinavian Summer Festival, and around Christmas time they have events at the Scandinavian Center in Burnaby. So we still make connections, and it's amazing. Some of the people from Sointula came to the Finnish rest home when they needed a place, and Mom and Dad were in the Finnish rest home on Marine Drive, and then when they built a new one here in Burnaby, then they moved there, and it was very good because I lived nearby, and Dad could come and fix the house when it needed some work, and it worked out well.
Thank you so much, Eileen.
Thank you, Roger.
These are spoofs, which is a type of curlew. Spoof is a family surname, and these are glass ornaments made by Iittala Glass in Finland. And what's the significance of Iittala Glass?
It is just a renowned quality molten glass that they really seem to choose the birds.
Yeah.
And
these ones are spoofs.
Yeah.
And then here we have an antique heirloom kettle. And this was given to me by someone in Sointula who bought after Eileen's family left Pouttu, they sold the farm to the Lansdowne family, and it's currently, Pouttu is in the Lansdowne family. And this was left in the Pouttu house, and underneath the handle it says, it's upside down to me right now. I'll try and focus on the letters. Having a hard time focusing. But it says Marta ja Uno in 1931. And Martha, of course, is Eileen's mother. And Uno Carlson was Eileen's first husband. And they were...
Martha's.
Oh, sorry. Martha's first husband. And Uno Carlson died within a year of being married to Uno. Yeah.
We were just 21, 22 years of age.
And then she stayed single up until she was 31 years old before she married Ralph and had Eileen and Robert. And this is also an heirloom that is in Eileen's house. And this is one of Alex Pouttu's carvings. He used to carve these net mending benches with beautiful salmon. And this is one of his benches by Alex Pouttu.
To come to the city for.
So this is a David Young painting, and he grew up in Sointula. He was a little bit older than Robert and Eileen, and this is in Eileen's home. And you can see David Young. He had polio, so he would paint these paintings by putting a paintbrush in his mouth and paint it.
And he was very successful.
Yeah.
He sold many of them.
That's beautiful. How did you acquire this one?
Lily
Oh,
had bought
okay.
it. She had heard about him, and she was determined that they would like to have one of his paintings, and that's why they didn't have children. So I would like to look.
Oh, absolutely! I'm glad you kept these heirlooms. This is Pouttu in Sointula. This is circa 1906. Or no, sorry. Would this be in the 1940s? It was built around 1906.
I would say that it is in the 40s.
In the 40s, yeah. Yeah. And then if you zoom in here, you could see Olga Pouttu hiding away there.
And she loved to grow roses, and she had time for gardening, so of flowers. So she had a green thumb.
And all these buildings still exist and are still standing. And the Lansdownes own the property currently to this day in Sointula. So I hope you enjoyed this interview with my cousin Eileen Tuulos. In my next video, I'll be interviewing my cousin Bob Pouttu. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. All right, ciao.